All right, guys, today we are going to go ahead and start a practice drawing to kind of apply what we've learned about value and shading to an actual project. So this is called the Value Layers Drawing Project, and it's exactly as it seems. We are going to illustrate how value can help create space by creating layers of value in a drawing. So space is an art element used to show foreground, middle ground, and background in a work of art. So this can also be like positive space and negative space, which I know we've talked about. But in this case, for this project, we're going to talk about foreground, middle ground, and background. So what do you need? You need a pencil. Non-mechanical will work best, but if mechanical pencil is all you've got to work with, that's all you've got to work with. You're going to need a piece of white paper, 8.5 by 11 sized or notebook sized, printer paper sized. If you can work on paper that doesn't have any lines on it, that's ideal. But if all you have is lined paper, that's all you got. You're going to need a small piece of paper for your stencil. You can see here in my picture, I grabbed whatever was available on my kitchen counter. So this happened to be a flyer I got from my son's daycare that I didn't need anymore. So I've got my paper and then I've got my stencil paper. Then you need a pair of scissors. So that's what you guys are going to need today. So your first step, you're going to want to create a stencil. Your stencil should be simple but interesting. You don't want it too simple like circles and squares and diamonds. Those probably aren't super interesting, but you don't want to create these like super crazy shapes either because it's going to require you a little bit more work. And you only have a couple days to finish this. So here you can see two options that I came up with. I came up with a simple star and I came up with cat head. You're not going to want to work much bigger than this. Kind of like the inside of the palm of your hand here is all the bigger it needs to be. It doesn't have to be real large. And you guys are working on like computer paper sized paper for the final project here. Next, you're going to trace your stencil 5 to 7 times to fill in with the lightest value. If you guys remember the value skill from earlier in the week, that value skill that you should have hopefully practiced, you're going to pick value like 1 or 2 from that value scale to fill in your first layer. You can see I filled in all of my cat heads here. Don't be afraid to engage the space, engage the edges of the paper. You can see some of my shapes run off the edge. Next, you're going to trace your stencil 3 to 5 more times, and you're going to overlap behind the first layer. So you can see all of my next value are underneath that top layer. So I didn't draw on top of anything I've already shaded. You're going to fill that in with a light to medium value. So value like 3 or 4. Next, you're going to trace your stencil 3 to 5 more times, overlapping behind the first and second layers. Fill it in with a medium dark value, so like 4 or 5, maybe even 6. And then lastly, you're going to fill in any remaining spaces in the background with the darkest value. You can see here, for the sake of time, I did not finish my whole drawing. You should definitely finish your whole drawing, but you can see this little section up in the corner here. I've filled in the background with the darkest value that my pencil could make. I tried to keep into consideration what you guys might have available to you at home. I did not use a drawing pencil for this. If I were to use a drawing pencil, I probably could have made that value even darker. So some tips for success here. I want you guys to be successful, and this is kind of what I experienced when I was doing this practice version. You should trace your shape slightly so you don't leave a dark outline that will stand out between the layers. So start light and work your way dark. Engage the edges of the paper. It's okay if your shapes run off the edge. You should also try to rotate your shape so they don't end up looking too uniform. Start with a very light value and build up layers, especially if your pencil doesn't have a great eraser. It's going to be much easier for you to add value than it will be for you to take away value if it ends up being too dark. Try to shade in the same direction. So don't color one direction and then color the other direction. Try to shade or add value all in the same direction to help your shapes look a little bit more uniform. Use your finger or a tissue, like a Kleenex, as a blending tool to smooth your pencil strokes out. Mine was really streaky because I used a low quality pencil, like one you'd get for free from like a business or something. And I just used my finger to kind of smooth out the values to help make it look a little bit more even. So those are some tips for you. You're going to turn in this drawing by 11:59 on Saturday. So remember, this is due Saturday, which means you have just a couple days of work time to do this. I'm not expecting you guys to come up with these crazy complex shapes. Don't work any larger than a sheet of computer paper. If you want to work a little bit smaller, I'm okay with that. Just keep in mind the size of your stencil should be kind of relative to the size of your paper. You guys are going to check Google Classroom for the turn-in document. You're going to attach your finished artwork there to turn it in and get credit for it. As always, you guys can reach out via email if you have questions about the assignment, and I will happily answer you as quickly as I can so you guys can make progress. Good luck, and I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.